Good morning, children. In this chapter, Indian economy, we're going to do sector by sector. What was the planning from 1950 to 1990? So first of all, we're going to do the agricultural sector. Now previously, we had learnt that there was neither growth nor equity in the agricultural sector during the colonial rule. At the time of independence, land tenure system was characterized by intermediaries who were popularly known as zamindars, who just collected rent from the actual tillers of the soil. Low productivity of agricultural sector forced India to import food from United States of America. The agricultural sector accounted for the largest share of workforce with approximately 70 to 75%. So agricultural development was focused right from the first 5-year plan. Now, we had discussed the problems or the features of agriculture in the previous chapter, but still we are going to do again. The first problem in agriculture was, or the feature in Indian agriculture was low productivity, if you remember. Indian agricultural sector was known for its low productivity. Lack of knowledge was responsible for stagnation in this sector because farmers primarily used the traditional methods which were unproductive. Okay. The second problem was that there were too many people engaged in agriculture. We had just discussed that 70 to 75% of the workforce was engaged in agriculture, which led to a serious problem called disguised unemployment. What is disguised unemployment? It refers to a state in which more people are engaged in work than actually needed. There were very high incidents of disguised unemployment in the sector during 1950 to 1990, which you will see today also, but there is a change. Third problem was high dependence on rainfall. We did not have proper irrigation system. Permanent means of irrigation was lacking. Due to poor agricultural techniques, farmers depended largely on rainfall. There was minimum growth of this sector in the year that receives the least rainfall. So rainfall in India, as you know, is erratic and irregular. So at times of good rainfall you'll have good produce, and at times of bad rainfall you'll have bad produce. Fourth was subsistence farming. So the farmers were more into subsistence farming than onto commercial farming. So they were mostly producing for themselves and maybe for the immediate village, but they never thought of expanding the produce or the market and sell it to an expanded market. So what is actually subsistence farming? It is a practice of growing crops for one's own use, maybe for the immediate village, without any surplus for trade. There was also very high incidence of subsistence farming at this point of time. Fifth was outdated technology. There were many obsolete technology and harvesting machines. Harvesting was generally done manually and was very tedious. So now if it is a very cumbersome activity, not much produce could be obtained. Conflicts between tenant and landlord. Farmers were often a part of critical contract that bound them to their landlords. Landlords used to extract huge amount of interest from farmers and deprive them of their necessities. Now, in order to solve all these problems, policies for growth of agriculture were undertaken. Now, the measures were primarily divided into two: land reforms. Now, basically, this involves change in ownership of land holdings through abolition of intermediaries and land ceiling. Okay, that was done in this. And the second, you could term it as technological reforms, but it is popularly known as Green Revolution. This referred to large increase in production of food grains due to the use of a new technology called HYV technology. Okay, HYV technology. We're going to do land reforms first. Land reforms primarily refers to change in the ownership of land holdings. Land reform measures have been introduced by various underdeveloped and developing countries for attaining a rational land distribution pattern and viable farming structure. There was a great need for land reform in a country like India, where majority of its population still depends on agriculture. And land reforms were also needed to achieve the objective of equity in agriculture. So what were these land reforms? One by one we're going to do that. First, abolition of intermediaries. So the title of Zamindar was taken back. So nobody was a Zamindar. But then the loopholes of India. Though the title wasn't there, the powerful had access to land in this system even after the reforms. So, but we're going to do what this reform was. Indian government took various steps to abolish intermediaries and to make tillers the owners of the land. The idea behind this step was that ownership of land would give incentive to the actual tiller to make improvements in the land. The abolition of intermediaries brought 200 lakh tenants into direct contact with the government. The ownership rights granted to tenants gave them the incentive to increase output, and this contributed to growth in agriculture. However, the goal of equity was not fully served by abolition of intermediaries because of the following reasons. First, in some areas, the former zamindars continued to own large areas of land by making use of some loopholes in the legislation. In some cases, the tenants were evicted and the zamindars claimed to be self-cultivators. Even after getting the ownership of land, the poorest of the agricultural laborers did not benefit from land reforms. Okay. So this was the first thing, that was abolition of intermediaries. Okay. The second reform was land ceiling. This is basically putting a limit to the ownership of land. That is, only a certain area of land could be owned by a single person. So this also had loopholes because India is a country of loopholes. But land ceiling primarily meant to put a limit to the ownership. Okay, land ceiling refers to fixing the specified limit of land which could be owned by an individual. Beyond the specified limit, all land belonging to a particular person would be taken over by the government and will be allotted to the landless cultivators and small farmers. The purpose of land ceiling was to reduce the concentration of land on land ownership in few hands, and land ceiling also helped to promote equity in agriculture. However, the land ceiling legislation was challenged by big landlords. They delayed its implementation. This delayed time was used by them to get land registered in their name or in their close relatives' name, which is basically called Binami, and vast inequality of land holdings continued. Okay. Now we're going to do a new strategy called the Green Revolution. The new agricultural strategy was adopted in India during the third plan. During 1960s, that is because the second plan was primarily for the industrial development, and the third plan was to have this kind of a boom in the agriculture. The traditional agricultural practices followed in India were gradually being replaced by modern technology and agricultural practices. The aim of this strategy was to raise agricultural production and productivity in selected regions of the country through the introduction of a new strategy which included modern inputs like fertilizers, new technology like tractors, sprinklers, all that. Credit also, marketing facilities, all this included in this green revolution. At the time of independence, about 75% of the country's population was dependent on agriculture. India's agriculture